Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 11th of November of 2023. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates and details, so let's start. And first we're going to start, of course, with Avdiivka direction, and to be more precise, with the village by the name of Stepova. Today we got very important updates of the battle for Avdiivka, of the operation of Avdiivka news, and we got that video from the Ukrainian side. And one more time, just let's take a look at this video. And as you can see, according to the Russian offensive operation that been taking place since the beginning of November or 10th of October, the Russians managed to cross the railways and to establish control over the eastern part of the village. At least this is the only piece of information, piece of news that we are allowed to see according to the Ukrainian forces, according to the Ukrainian sources. The Russians haven't provided even a single geolocated video confirmation of the presence of their forces in this area. Just the Ukrainians published this, but anyway, we understand that currently the clashes are taking place in the village. And furthermore, as I understand, the upcoming night, the night between 11th of November and 12th of November, is going to be the most important night that will determine even maybe the entire destiny of Avdiivka, because the main clashes and the main battles, it's better to implement and to make during the night period of time, because this period of time you at least can be 400% sure that the Ukrainians will not, or the Russians will not, attack you with FPV drones, because obviously there are FPV drones with night vision, but there are not like hundreds or thousands of them, and at least you will be secured. So what is going to be this night? Obviously, the video that we just seen took place on the 10th of November, so yesterday, and at least it's already 48 hours passed since that video was made. And according to the Russian sources, the Russians continue advancing the village, and as a result of clashes during the previous 48 hours, the Russians managed to force the Ukrainians to step back from entire Stepova. But important note that we still haven't received even a single video confirmation of that. Even if the Russians haven't managed to do this, obviously we understand that this night the Ukrainians will launch a counter-offensive operation. It's a vital question for the Ukrainians to force the Russians to step back from this area and to show more pictures, more geolocated videos, how they managed to capture this territory, or anyway, just like the simple thing, the Ukrainians need to capture the eastern part of this village and to establish, let's say, Ukrainian flag. This is the minimum that the Ukrainians need to do. During the previous day, the Ukrainians tried to show people the picture that the situation is under control. For example, the Ukrainians shown the same video of clashes for Stepova, but from another angle. On this video, we see the Ukrainian Bradley, who was attacking the Russian positions in the eastern part, but this is, let's say, another confirmation of Russian control. Furthermore, the Ukrainians trying to show us another video how they made something like counter-attack against the Russian positions using one tank Leopard and one Bradley, and the Ukrainians were attacking the Russian forces on the railways. They also tried to show us that the territory was recaptured by the Ukrainians, that they managed to restore, and this video confirms that the Russians were forced to step back, and the Russian stormtroopers and infantry that were in the southern part of Verbova basically were destroyed or something like this. But there is one important thing, that on this video we see that the village, the eastern part of the village wasn't destroyed yet or reduced to ruins. So this one on the video that we saw during the battle for this part of the village was already destroyed. So these events that we can see right now on the screen took place before the Russians entered the eastern part of Stepova, and maybe the Russians have already established entire control. So the situation is vital, and the Russians also, while there are clashes in Stepova, maybe already in Berdichi, the Russians launch a very powerful offensive operation from the southern direction, trying to penetrate the Ukrainian defense belt. And some sources are saying that as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to improve their positions on the southeast of Tsarskaya Okhota fortifications. So in this area, Currently, we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation of Russian progress, but if we compare the situation with Tipo, probably there are some progress. And I'm not saying that the Russians have established entire control over this cloud I have just made on the screen, but anyway, something of this was taken by the Russians during the previous 24 hours. The only thing we have is geolocated videos of Russian bombardments of this industrial area. As you can see, during the clashes that have been taking place since the 2014, the Russians have already reduced this territory till ruins, and they were bombing this territory heavily the previous 24 hours, and exactly on this direction the Russians launched an offensive operation. Now we don't have any updates about the real areas that were taken, but anyway, now the Russians started. If we calculate the operational pause, probably the operational pause been holding for another 2 weeks, so we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation from this area for the previous 2 weeks. Probably the Russians were concentrating the forces, they were trying to get to collect critical mass, and now they're ready to attack. And this area is not the only area of Russian attack. We also got a lot of updates on the line between Tsarskaya Okhota and let's call it machine gun position on the broken bridge that located on the south of Avdiivka as well. The Russians were bombing Tsarskaya Okhota heavily with all types of weapons they have. Probably this is another step, another, let's say, episode of artillery preparation before the next wave of attack in direction of this fortification. The Russians were bombing Tsarskaya Okhota with one purpose. There are a lot of underground facilities and lots of underground tunnels that connects Tsarskaya Okhota with the machine gun position that located on the south or below the broken bridge. That broken bridge the Russians were bombing also heavily. I'm not sure what type of weapon the Russians were using for these purposes. Now we're gonna see the explosion, but now this is the launch of the rounds of the shell. As I understand, based on my experience, this is something like distance demining munition of UR-77 distant mining like equipment. So maybe the Russians were planning to demine, or maybe they were planning to do something else, but the purpose of that attack is obvious. The Russians were trying to suppress and to destroy the machine gun positions that located along the road and along the broken bridges. So the Russians have almost completed the artillery preparation, and we need to expect also during this weekend, or maybe the Russians have already launched another offensive operation in this area. And now we understand that the news, Avdiivka news, is tightening. The Russians are attacking from the north and the Russians are attacking from the south. We haven't received any updates from the line Tonenькая-Северная during the day, just the update that we have discussed in the previous video, that is a result of another strike. The Ukrainians lost T-64 on this line, but no movements on the ground. When talking about the Ukrainians, they understand the critical situation. They know for sure that every single day might be the last day for the Ukrainians, so that's why the Ukrainians took a decision to concentrate significant number of forces based on Zelensky order. One of the most powerful, experienced brigades currently are redeploying in this area with one purpose: to stop the Russians. The Ukrainians have redeployed in this area M77 howitzers, HIMARS systems, a mechanized brigade that were trained by the Western countries, and Bradleys, Leopards. I will not be surprised to see even Leopards, not Leopards, but Challengers on this direction fighting with the Russians. This is the vital question for the Ukrainians. And to slow down the Russians, at least for somehow, the Ukrainians, for example, used HIMARS missiles. On this video, on the east of Donetsk, the Russians concentrated on collected some forces in the forest, maybe some armored vehicles, maybe damaged, maybe correct one. It's very difficult to understand, but the Ukrainians managed to discover them using intelligence drones, and they start bombing this area with HIMARS. As you can see, 3 HIMARS strikes took place in this area, and obviously most of the armored vehicles that were located in this area were destroyed. Also, the Ukrainians Ukrainians tried to control the main supply roads with FPV drones. They tried to operate 24 hours, 7 days a week, trying to bomb the Russian positions with FPV drones, with different types of drones that Ukrainians have. A little bit to the south, the same story. The Ukrainians tried to control the area, and we see the problem from the Russian side. The Russians launched offensive operation, but it's not just the Russian problem. Neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians managed to establish electronic warfare superiority in this area. And understand who can do this, who are able to establish this type of superiority, maybe is going to be the winner of the battle for Avdiivka. The Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of clashes on Avdiivka on Donetsk direction, the Ukrainians lost 305 soldiers, 11 armored vehicles and 2 artillery systems. Very interesting updates are coming from the south Donetsk direction, and these two directions are connected tightly between each other, and we continue receiving bombardments, the scenes and footage of bombardments of the Ukrainian positions in Katerinovka, Konstantinovka and Ugledar. In Konstantinovka, we can see the usage of FAB-500, and as a result of bombardments, another Ukrainian ammo depot was destroyed. This is very important area, as if you remember, during the previous weeks, the Russians managed to destroy, after 3 strikes, the bridge that connected Konstantinovka with the mainland, and now the Russians try to destroy the local ammo depots. On this video, we can see the results of counter-artillery duels. As a result of counter-attack, the Russians managed to destroy the Ukrainian artillery system somewhere in the vicinity of Katerinovka. All these videos are geolocated. So there is a real counter-artillery duels, and the Russians are doing this for one purpose: to break through the Ukrainian positions in the vicinity on the north of Mykolaiv. And today was another day of another storm attempt of these positions. The Russians were using the armored vehicles, infantry, trenches, but before attack, the Russians were bombing this territory heavily using the different types of weapons, like Grad systems, like multi-launch rocket systems, like this type of shell, just regular artillery duels, and so on. But yet we haven't received any geolocated confirmation whether the Russians were able to establish control over this territory or not. But this is not the most important updates. The clashes on South Donetsk have been taking place since since the creation of this front line. Very interesting updates, and we need to point on this, are coming from Velyka Novosilka. First of all, let's discuss the Russian Lancet strike with the Lancet of new generation. As a result of clashes on the South Donetsk direction, the Ukrainians lost 140 soldiers, 2 armored vehicles and 10 artillery systems. And these artillery systems the Ukrainians were using to support their forces in Nikolskoye, on the north and the east of Ugledar, and of course on Donetsk direction. But the most important updates are not about the clashes, about the losses. The most important updates are coming from Velyka Novosilka foothold. If you take a look at this map, you're gonna see that there are almost nothing in this area. Most of the forces, most of the reserves were stretched and moved to different directions. All marine brigades were redeployed from Velyka Novosilka area to Kherson direction. Most of the mechanized parts and stormtroopers were redeployed from Velyka Novosilka to, let's say, Marinka and Avdiivka direction. So basically, there is a lack of infantry and forces in this area. So we haven't received anything during the previous days, 48 probably hours, but I expect that the Russians, after they regroup their forces on the north of Priyutina, will make more attempts to attack the Ukrainians in Makarovka and to attack the Ukrainians in Staromayorskaya. And the reason of that is complete absence of Ukrainian forces in this area, or those forces who are located in this area is the forces of National Guard, and they're less experienced in comparison with the Russian Marines and Russian stormtroopers in this area. When talking about Zaporozhye direction, as I understand, the Ukrainians currently don't know what to do next. From one side, they need to continue offensive operation, but from the other side, they need to understand how the battle for Avdiivka is going to be finished. Whether the Russians are able to create a cauldron or the Ukrainians are able to repel the Russian attack, and everything depends on that. And this thing without the question to this answer is not allow the Ukrainians to continue their offensive operations. So during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything from this area. The Russians reported that as a result of clashes on Zaporozhye direction, the Ukrainians lost 50 soldiers and 2 armored vehicles and 2 artillery systems. When talking about Kherson direction, the situation for the Russians is stable and difficult. Stable and difficult. That means that Ukrainians every single day can provide us more and more geolocated footages of different achievements from their side and so on. But when talking about the global scope of the situation, the question, for example, I have, what the Ukrainians are planning to do next. Let's assume that there are chances that Ukrainians, as a result of some tricky and very powerful experienced operation using F-16s, Leopards and Challengers, are able to establish control over this bank of the Dnieper River. But the question is, what are they going to do next? Because to attack next, they will be forced to face the same fortifications, the same trenches that currently the Ukrainians are facing on Robotyne direction. And all the attacks will be reduced to zero. Maybe they just want to force the Russians to keep some forces in this area, and this is something like media attack, and not to allow the Russians to feel themselves comfortable, because if the Russians are forced to keep some forces, because if they lose, this is going to be a very powerful media strike against the Russian authorities and military authorities as well. So this forced the Russians to always keep something in this area. Maybe this is the reason, who knows. When talking about the common Ukrainian results, we can describe the common Ukrainian results just with one picture. On this video, we see the shore, the bank of the river on the south of Pridniprovska with significant number of dead bodies of Ukrainian soldiers. A lot of people were killed, and currently the Ukrainians don't have any possibilities to evacuate them. The Russians reported that as a result of clashes on this direction, the Ukrainians lost 60 soldiers, 4 armored vehicles, including 1 tank and 1 artillery system Stab B. I wonder how the Russians managed to destroy a tank. We haven't received any updates that the Ukrainians managed to redeploy a tank on the Russian Dnieper River, a bank of Dnieper River. Probably the Russians managed to destroy a tank using something like Lancet, or maybe like something like accurate shell Krasnopol. We don't have any updates about that. Now we are moving to Bakhmut Artyomov's direction, and we also got a lot of updates. The Russians reported that they continued their offensive operation in Klishchiivka. We received a lot of updates about the battle from this area, but the thing is that yesterday we also discussed about the Russian attacks, and people were saying, people on the ground were saying that the Ukrainians were forced to step back. But today, during the day, we got a lot of geolocated confirmations that Ukrainians haven't left Klishchiivka, that those talks were just rumors and wishful thinking. Maybe that was something like a special operation by the Russian forces. But no matter the situation in Klishchiivka, the only thing we can tell for sure that the Russians managed to return control over the positions along the railways, at least over this forest and tree line. We got a geolocated video of that. Furthermore, we have unconfirmed confirmation and confirmed piece of news that the Russians managed to restore control over the railways on the eastern part of Avdiivka. Just like the mappers, most of the mappers have updated this territory, but for me, I still wait for some geolocated video proofs, so we will wait a little bit. We haven't received anything about any Russian results of attack on the west from Bakhmut on the east of Ivanovska, and also we haven't received anything, no updates about the Russian progress in the vicinity of Berkhovka, Yagidno and Khromovo. Now we are moving to Siversk direction. We have some updates, but just the regular clashes, local battles between the Ukrainian forces and the Russian forces in oil refinery. For example, in this video, we see the movement of the Russian armored vehicle truck that was damaged by the FPV drone, and as a result of that attack, the truck was stopped. So nothing special. And the same story in Berestovo. The Ukrainians published the video how they managed to discover the Russian position, artillery positions or abandoned vehicle, and as a result of attack that vehicle was destroyed. So the situation is completely stable on the Siversk front line without any changes in any side. Lyman and Kupiansk front line, we haven't received any geolocated videos, just a report from the Ministry of Defense. According to the information we have, as a result of clashes on Lyman front line, the Ukrainians lost 80 soldiers, and as a result of clashes on Kupiansk front line, the Ukrainians lost 50 soldiers. But when talking about Kupiansk area, we have one important update. We have a geolocated video of FPV drone strike of Russian forces in Dvurechne, the city that located in the vicinity of Sinkovka on the north of Kupiansk. It's just a regular video, but we need to note a few things about that strike. So as you can see, the Russians using FPV drones attacked the Ukrainian positions in small buildings somewhere in the central part of the village. But the important thing that this is not the first video from this area. We increased the number of updates. Since the 9th of November, we got 2 videos of 2 strikes. What does it mean? First of all, as I understand, the Russians have redeployed the new FPV drone squad on the Kupiansk direction. As I understand, this is not, let's say, very well experienced forces. Maybe the Russians just finished another schools, another learnings or teachings of another group, and now this group was redeployed to Kupiansk direction to get some experience. So we're gonna follow this situation, because we know that before any attempt to storm this or that city, the Russians always, and either the Ukrainians always, use FPV drones. From one side, this is maybe like the training area for newly created FPV drone squad, but from the other side, the Russians maybe started something like a clearing operation of Dvurechne before the next attempt to attack this village and to storm this area by the, let's say, forces, but before the ground operation. We'll follow this because this is also very interesting. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you, we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.